The bullet took him in the shoulder just as the sun broke over the mountains. Cole Wheeler didn't cry out. He'd forgotten how to make that sound years ago, somewhere between Shiloh and the end of everything he'd ever known. He just gripped the saddle horn tighter and kept riding, blood soaking through his shirt and dripping onto the gray mare's neck. Behind him, 3 riders topped the ridge. They were 2 miles back, maybe less. Close enough that he could hear their whoops and hollers carried on the morning wind. They'd been chasing him since Reno, 3 days and 3 nights through the worst country Nevada had to offer. He'd thought he'd lost them in the canyon lands, but these boys were persistent. Cole looked down at the valley spreading below him. A town sat there, nestled against a creek that glittered silver in the early light. Maybe 100 buildings, a main street, a church steeple catching the first rays of dawn. Civilization. People. Witnesses. The riders behind him weren't lawmen. They wouldn't want witnesses. He urged the mare down the slope, every stride sending fresh fire through his shoulder. Just get to the town. That's all. Get to the town and disappear. It's what he was good at. It's all he had left. The sign at the edge of town was weathered and crooked. Half the letters faded to nothing. Bitter Creek, Pop, 847. Below it, someone had nailed a newer board, and falling. Appropriate, Cole thought. A dying town for a dying man. He made it to the livery stable before the darkness at the edges of his vision swallowed him whole. Sarah McAllister had learned to wake before dawn. It wasn't by choice. When James was alive, she'd loved the luxury of those last few minutes of sleep, curled against his warmth while he rose to tend the stock. But James had been dead, 8 months now, buried on the hill overlooking the creek, and there was no one else to do what needed doing. She moved quietly through the dark cabin, stepping over the loose board by the fireplace, avoiding the chair that creaked if you brushed against it. The children were still sleeping, Matthew in the loft, Emily and Tommy sharing the small room off the kitchen. Let them sleep a little longer. Let them have that at least. Outside, the air was cold and crisp, the stars still bright overhead. The rooster hadn't even begun to crow. She wrapped her shawl tighter and walked to the well, her breath making small clouds in the darkness. That's when she saw the horse. It was standing by the fence, head hanging, reins dragging in the dirt. A grey mare, badly used, covered in dust and dried sweat. Sarah approached slowly, on hand reaching for the rifle she'd left leaning against the porch. You didn't survive out here by being careless. Easy, girl, she murmured. Easy now. The mare's eyes rolled, showing white, but she was too exhausted to spook. Sarah caught the reins, ran her hand along the animal's neck, and felt the stickiness. Blood, still wet. She followed the trail of dark droplets around the side of the barn, rifle raised now, heart hammering in her chest. The sky was lightening to grey in the east, enough to see by. Enough to see the man lying face down in the dirt by the water trough. He wasn't moving. Sarah stood there for a long moment, rifle aimed at his back. He was dressed in black, dusty and trail-worn. A gun belt around his waist, the holster holding a pistol that looked well used. A gunfighter, a drifter. The kind of man who brought nothing but trouble. The kind of man who had killed her husband. She should leave him. Walk away and let the coyotes have him. That's what James would have said if he could speak from his grave. Don't get involved. Don't bring danger to the children. But James had also been the kind of man who helped strangers, who believed in the good in people. It's what got him killed. Sarah lowered the rifle, cursed herself for a fool, and knelt beside the stranger in the dirt. He was alive, barely. The blood was coming from a wound in his left shoulder, a clean hole that meant a bullet had gone through. His breathing was shallow, his face pale beneath the several days' growth of beard. She noticed the scar then, running from his temple to his cheekbone, an old wound that had healed badly. A soldier's scar. She'd seen enough of them back in Virginia after the war. "Who are you?" she whispered to the unconscious man. "And what kind of trouble did you bring to my door?" He didn't answer. Of course he didn't. The questions would have to wait. She looked toward the cabin, where Matthew was probably already awake, wondering where she'd gone. Then back at the stranger. "Don't make me regret this," she said, and went to get her son. Cole woke to the smell of wood smoke and something else, something he hadn't smelled in years. Home. He opened his eyes slowly, letting them adjust to the dim light. He was lying on a narrow cot in a small room, a patchwork quilt pulled up to his chest. His shirt was gone, replaced by clean bandages wrapped around his shoulder. The wound throbbed, but it was a clean pain now, not the hot agony of infection. A fire crackled somewhere nearby. Through a doorway, he could hear voices. A woman's voice, low and measured, and the higher tones of children. The sounds of a family. A life. His hand moved instinctively to his hip. His gun was gone. "It's on the table, cleaned and loaded." Cole turned his head. A woman stood in the doorway, wiping her hands on an apron. Auburn hair in a braid, brown eyes watching him with an expression that was equal parts wariness and curiosity. She was beautiful, in the way that practical, hard-working women often are. No artifice, no pretense, just truth. "Where am I?" His voice came out as a croak. "McAllister Ranch, about 2 miles outside Bitter Creek." She crossed to a pitcher on the nightstand and poured water into a cup. "You collapsed in my barnyard 2 days ago. My son and I carried you in." 2 days. "You'd lost a lot of blood. Fever took you the first night. Broke last evening." She held out the cup. When he reached for it with his right hand, pain lanced through his shoulder. She didn't help him, just watched him struggle to sit up and take it himself. "You're lucky the bullet went clean through. An inch to the left, you'd have bled out before you reached my fence." Cole drank. The water was cool and sweet, better than anything he'd tasted in months. "I'm obliged to you, Ma'am, for everything." "I don't want your thanks." Her voice was flat. "I want answers. Who shot you, and who might be following?" Cole set the cup down, considered lying, but this woman had saved his life, and there was something in her eyes that said she'd know a lie when she heard one. 3 men. They picked up my trail in Reno. I don't know who sent them, but I can guess. He paused. They won't come here. They weren't lawmen, just hired guns. They would have turned back when I reached the town. Too many witnesses. Hired guns. She said it like it left a bad taste. "And what are you?" "Just a man passing through." Men passing through don't carry guns like that. Don't move like you do. Don't have scars like that one on your face. She crossed her arms. "I have 3 children in this house. If you've brought danger to them, I deserve to know." Cole held her gaze. In the firelight, her eyes looked almost gold. "I haven't brought you anything, ma'am. Soon as I can ride, I'll be gone. You'll never see me again." Something flickered across her face. Relief, maybe, or something else. "You won't be riding anywhere for at least a week. That shoulder needs time to heal." She turned to leave, then paused in the doorway. "There's stew on the stove. Emily will bring you some. She's been asking about you since you got here. I don't even know your name." "Sarah," she said, not looking back. "Sarah McAllister. And you?" He almost said his real name. Almost. "Cole. Just Cole. Just Cole." A hint of a smile touched her lips, gone as quick as it came. "Welcome to Bitter Creek, Just Cole. Try not to die in my spare room." She left him alone with his wounds and his secrets, and the strange feeling that he'd just been seen for the first time in years. Emily came first. She pushed through the door carrying a bowl of stew, moving with the careful concentration of a child, determined not to spill. Auburn hair like her mother's, tied back with a blue ribbon. Freckles scattered across her nose. She couldn't have been more than 8 years old. "Mama said you're awake." She set the bowl on the nightstand, studying him with frank curiosity. "I'm Emily. I'm 8. Matt says you're a gunfighter, but I don't think you are. Gunfighters are mean, and you don't look mean. You just look tired." Cole found himself almost smiling. "Your brother might be right. Matt thinks he's right about everything. He's 12, so he thinks he knows everything. But he doesn't." She perched on the edge of a chair that was too big for her, legs swinging. "What's your name?" "Cole." "That's a nice name. My daddy's name was James, but he's dead now." She said it matter-of-factly, the way children do when they've grown used to a terrible truth. "Some bad men shot him. Mama says we don't talk about it, but I don't see why not. He's still dead whether we talk about it or not." Cole felt something twist in his chest. "I'm sorry about your father. It's not your fault." Emily tilted her head, studying him. "Are you going to stay? Mama needs help. She won't say so, but she does. The fence keeps falling down and she can't lift the hay bales by herself, and Mr. Hartley's men keep coming and scaring the horses." Cole went still. "Hartley?" "Mr. Silas Hartley. He owns most everything around here. He wants to buy our ranch, but Mama won't sell. She says Daddy died for this land, and she won't give it up." Emily's face clouded. "His men aren't nice. They burned Mr. Peterson's barn last month. Everyone knows they did it, but the sheriff doesn't do anything." Hartley. The name hit Cole like a second bullet. It couldn't be coincidence. The universe wasn't that cruel. But it was. Of course it was. "You should eat your stew," Emily said, oblivious to the storm behind his eyes. "It's getting cold, and cold stew is disgusting." She hopped off the chair. "I'll come visit you again tomorrow. Tommy wants to meet you, but he's too shy. He's only 5. She was gone before he could respond, the door swinging shut behind her. Cole stared at the stew, his appetite gone. Silas Hartley, Thomas Hartley's brother. The man had been building a cattle empire in Nevada for years. Cole had heard the name whispered in saloons and bunkhouses across the territory. A hard man, a dangerous man, the kind of man who didn't forget when someone killed his blood. And now Cole was wounded, defenseless, in the home of a widow that Silas Hartley was apparently trying to destroy. He should leave. Tonight. Steal a horse if he had to, and ride until he hit the ocean. Staying here wasn't just dangerous for him. It was dangerous for Sarah and her children, if Hartley learned who was under her roof. But he couldn't ride, could barely sit up, and even if he could, where would he go? He'd been running for 3 years. Eventually, a man had to stop, or be stopped. Cole ate the stew mechanically, not tasting it. Then he lay back on the cot and stared at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of a family he had no right to be near, and waited for the darkness to come. Silas Hartley sat in his office above the Bitter Creek Bank and Trust, watching the sun climb over the mountains through the window. The bank was his, of course. Everything in this town was his, or would be soon enough. Everything except the McAllister ranch. He turned from the window when the door opened. Jack Crow stepped inside, moving with his usual predatory grace, and dropped a telegram on the desk. "From the men you sent to Reno," Jack said. "They lost him." Silas picked up the telegram, read it slowly. His expression didn't change. It never did. "Lost him how?" "Shot him. Didn't kill him. He made it to a town before they could finish the job." Jack's thin lips curved. "Bitter Creek." Silas went very still. He's here? Maybe. No one's seen a stranger matching his description in town, which means either he's dead in a ditch somewhere, or someone's hiding him. Jack paused. The McAllister woman went to town yesterday, bought bandages, a lot of them. Silas turned back to the window. His reflection stared back at him, older now, heavier, but with the same cold eyes his brother had shared. Thomas had been the charming one, the one people liked. But Thomas had also been careless. He'd gotten himself killed by some drifter in a dusty Texas town over a card game gone wrong. Cole Wheeler. Silas had memorized that name 3 years ago, had spent a small fortune tracking the man across 4 territories. And now, if Jack was right, Wheeler had wandered straight into his hands. Fate had a sense of humor after all. The widow, Silas said softly, if she's sheltering him. She doesn't know who he is. No one does. He's been running under different names for years. But I know. Silas turned. Take some men. Pay the McAllister ranch a visit. Don't kill him, not yet. I want him to know who found him. I want him to know why. He paused. And if the widow gets in the way? Jack's smile widened. Accidents happen on isolated ranches. That they do. Silas sat down behind his desk, steepling his fingers. But be careful, Jack. Wheeler killed my brother in a fair fight. That means he's fast. Faster than Thomas, at least. I'm faster. I know you are. That's why I pay you. Silas dismissed him with a wave. Go, and Jack. Bring him back alive if you can. I have questions for him. And then I'll have answers. And then... He picked up a letter opener, tested its edge. Then I'll have justice. Jack nodded and slipped out as silently as he'd come. Silas sat in the empty office, watching the sun rise over his empire, and thought about revenge. 4 days later, Cole took his first steps outside. The morning was cool, the sky a pale blue streaked with mare's tail clouds. He leaned against the porch railing, breathing in air that smelled of sage and juniper and horses. His shoulder ached, but it was the ache of healing now, not injury. The McAllister ranch was small but well kept. A 2-room cabin with a covered porch, a barn that needed painting, a corral holding 3 horses, and a milk cow. Beyond the buildings, the land stretched away to distant mountains, good grazing land, watered by a creek that glittered in the early light. Worth killing for, Cole thought. Worth dying for, to someone like Sarah McAllister. He watched her working in the garden behind the cabin, pulling weeds with the focused determination that seemed to define everything she did. Emily was beside her, chattering about something that made Sarah smile. Matthew was in the corral, brushing one of the horses with the careful attention of a boy trying to do a man's job. And Tommy, the little one, was standing at the edge of the porch, staring at Cole with huge blue eyes. "Hey there," Cole said. Tommy didn't respond, just kept staring. After a moment he held something out, a wooden horse, roughly carved but recognizable. "For me?" Cole asked. A tiny nod. Cole knelt, slowly and painfully, and took the horse. It was warm from the boy's hands. "This is real fine work. You make this yourself?" Another nod. Then, so quietly Cole almost didn't hear, "Daddy taught me. Before." Cole felt that twist in his chest again, stronger this time. "Well, your daddy taught you good. I'll treasure this." Tommy's face transformed with a smile so pure it hurt to look at. Then he turned and ran toward the garden, yelling, "Mama, he liked it. The man liked it." Cole straightened up, the wooden horse in his hand, and found Sarah watching him from across the yard. Her expression was unreadable. She held his gaze for a long moment, then went back to her work. He looked down at the little carved horse and wondered what the hell he was doing here, what he was allowing himself to feel. He should have left 3 days ago, should have crawled out a window if he had to. Every hour he stayed put these people in more danger. But he hadn't left, and he was starting to understand why. That night, after the children were asleep, Sarah sat across from Cole at the kitchen table. The fire had burned low, casting long shadows across the rough-hewn walls. She'd poured 2 cups of coffee but hadn't touched hers. "You're stronger," she said. "Strong enough to ride. Maybe. But you're still here." Cole turned the coffee cup in his hands. "I could help with the fence tomorrow. I noticed it's falling down in places." "That's not an answer." "No," he agreed. "It's not." Sarah leaned back in her chair. "Emily told me about her conversation with you, about Hartley." She watched his face. "You recognize the name. It's a common enough name." "Don't." Her voice sharpened. "I let you into my home, nursed you back to health with my children in the next room. I think I've earned honesty." Cole met her eyes. In the firelight, they looked like honey, warm and fierce at the same time. "You don't want my honesty, Mrs. McAllister. Trust me." "Sarah, and yes, I do, because I need to know if keeping you here is putting my children in danger." A long silence. The fire crackled. Somewhere outside, a coyote howled. 3 years ago," Cole said finally, "I killed a man in Texas. His name was Thomas Hartley." Sarah's face went pale. "Silas Hartley's brother." "Yes." Cole kept his voice flat, emotionless. It was easier that way. "It was a fair fight. He cheated at cards, got caught, drew first. But fair doesn't matter to a man like Silas Hartley. He's been hunting me ever since. And those men who shot you, his men, had to be." Cole pushed the coffee cup away. "I didn't know where I was when I rode in. Didn't know this was his territory. By the time I figured it out, I was too weak to leave." "But you're not too weak now." "No. Then why are you still here?" Cole looked at her, really looked at her. This woman who had lost her husband to violence and still found the strength to raise 3 children alone. Who had every reason to turn away a wounded stranger and instead brought him into her home. Who sat across from him now, not with fear in her eyes, but with a fierce determination to protect what was hers. "Because I'm tired of running," he said. "And because your daughter gave me cold stew, and your son gave me a wooden horse, and it's been so long since anyone gave me anything that didn't come with a price." He paused. "And because if I leave, Hartley will come for you anyway. He wants your land. With me here or gone, that won't change." "So you're staying to protect us?" Sarah's voice was sharp. "I don't need protection. I've been doing fine on my own." "I know." Cole almost smiled. "But maybe I need you." Something shifted in her expression. The hardness softened, just for a moment. Then she stood, collecting the coffee cups. "The spare room is yours as long as you need it. You can help with the fence in the morning." She paused at the doorway to the kitchen. "And Cole, if you ever lie to me again, I'll shoot you myself." "Fair enough." She left him sitting in the dark, the fire dying to embers, wondering what he'd just committed to, and why it didn't terrify him as much as it should. They came 3 days later. Cole was in the barn, mucking out stalls, when he heard the horses. 3 riders coming fast from the east, dust clouds trailing behind them. He set down the pitchfork and walked to the doorway, wiping his hands on his trousers. Jack Crow rode at the front. Cole recognized him immediately. The black clothes, the hollow face, the cold eyes that never seemed to blink. They'd crossed paths once, years ago, in a saloon in Abilene. Cole had been faster then. He'd let Jack live, which in retrospect had probably been a mistake. Sarah came out of the cabin, rifle in her hands. Matthew was right behind her, trying to look brave. Cole held up a hand, stopping them. "Stay there," he said quietly. "Keep the children inside." "This is my land," Sarah said. "I won't hide in my own home." I know, but those men aren't here for you. They're here for me. He looked at her. Please. Something in his voice made her pause. After a long moment, she nodded and pulled Matthew back toward the cabin. The door closed. He heard the bar drop into place. Cole walked out to meet the riders. They reined up 20 feet away. Jack dismounted first, slow and deliberate, his hands visible, but ready. The other two stayed mounted. Hired guns by the look of them. Muscle, not brains. Cole Wheeler, Jack said. His voice was like gravel scraping stone. Been a long time. Jack. Cole kept his voice neutral. Didn't expect to see you in Nevada. Life takes us strange places. Jack's thin smile didn't reach his eyes. Mr. Hartley would like a word with you. He's willing to ask nicely. Once. Tell him I'm not interested in conversation. I told him you'd say that. Jack's hand drifted toward his gun. He said if you refused, I should bring you anyway, dead or alive. Cole felt the familiar calm settle over him. The world narrowed to this moment. The distance between them, the angle of the sun, the positions of the other two riders. You sure you want to try that, Jack? Last time didn't go so well for you. Last time I was drunk and careless. I'm neither today. Then I guess we'll find out. The moment stretched. Jack's hand twitched. A rifle shot cracked through the air. One of the mounted men cried out, grabbing his shoulder as his horse reared. Cole spun to see Sarah standing on the porch, smoke curling from her rifle barrel, already working the lever for another shot. The next one goes in his head, she called out, her voice steady as iron. And the one after that goes in yours, Mr. Crow. This is my property. You're not welcome on it. Jack's face twisted with fury. His hand was still hovering near his gun, but the odds had changed. Cole hadn't moved, hadn't reached for his own weapon. He didn't need to. Lady has good aim, Jack said through gritted teeth. She does, Cole agreed. You might want to remember that. A long, tense moment. Then Jack stepped back, moving toward his horse. This isn't over, Wheeler. Mr. Hartley has a long memory. And so do I. Tell your boss if he wants to talk, he can come himself. But he should come prepared for a different kind of conversation. Jack mounted his horse, his eyes never leaving Cole's face. The widow's making a mistake, protecting you. When this is done, she's going to pay for it. If anything happens to her or those children, Cole said quietly, there won't be a hole deep enough for you to hide in. Jack laughed, a cold, ugly sound, and wheeled his horse around. The three of them rode off, the wounded man clutching his shoulder, dust clouds swallowing them as they disappeared over the ridge. Cole didn't move until they were out of sight. Then he turned to find Sarah still on the porch, the rifle still raised, her face pale but determined. I thought I told you to stay inside, he said. I don't take orders well. She lowered the rifle. Her hands were shaking now, just slightly. That was Jack Crow, Hartley's enforcer. He's killed a dozen men that I know of. I know. And you were just going to... What? Stand there and let him shoot you? I was going to draw on 3 men with my wounded arm and hope for the best. Cole climbed the porch steps and stopped in front of her. That was either very brave or very stupid of you, Mrs. McAllister. Sarah, she said again. And maybe it was both. She met his eyes. They'll be back, with more men. Yes, then we'd better be ready. She turned and went inside. After a moment, Cole followed. The next week passed in a strange sort of peace. Cole fixed the fence, then the barn door, then the hole in the roof that Sarah had been meaning to patch for months. He worked from dawn to dusk, pushing his healing body harder than he should. And at night, he sat on the porch and watched the stars wheel overhead. Tommy followed him everywhere now, holding his tools, handing him nails, chattering about nothing and everything. Emily brought him water and asked endless questions about places he'd been, people he'd met, horses he'd ridden. Even Matthew warmed to him eventually, asking Cole to teach him to shoot, a request that Sarah firmly denied. "No guns for you yet," she told her son. "You're still too young." "I'm 12, Matthew protested. "Pa was shooting at 12. Your father grew up in a different time." Sarah's voice was gentle but firm. "Learn to rope first. Guns can come later." Cole wisely kept his opinions to himself. But the peace was an illusion, and they both knew it. Every day, Cole rode out to check the perimeter of the property, looking for signs of riders, tracks in the dust, anything that would warn them Hartley's men were coming. Every night, he slept with his gun within reach, waking at the slightest sound. The storm was coming. They were just waiting for it to break. One evening, after the children were asleep, Cole found Sarah sitting on the porch steps, wrapped in a shawl against the cooling air. He hesitated, then sat down beside her, leaving a respectful distance between them. "Beautiful night," he said. "It is." She was looking at the stars, her face pale in the moonlight. "James and I used to sit out here, after the children were in bed. He'd tell me his plans for the ranch, how he wanted to expand, bring in more cattle, build a bigger house." A sad smile touched her lips. He was always dreaming. Sounds like a good man. He was. Too good for this place. She pulled the shawl tighter. He wouldn't sell when Hartley made his first offer. Said the water rights were too valuable, that this land would support a dynasty someday. Hartley kept raising the price. James kept saying no. She paused. One morning, 3 of Hartley's men rode up and told James he had one day to change his mind. James told them to go to hell. Her voice cracked. That night, they came back. Cole said nothing. There was nothing to say. "They said it was bandits," Sarah continued, her voice hardening. "The sheriff called it a robbery gone wrong, but everyone knew. Everyone knew what really happened, and no one did a damn thing about it." "That's why you stay," Cole said quietly. "It's not about the land. It's about not letting them win." Sarah looked at him. In the moonlight, her eyes were luminous, filled with pain and anger and something else he couldn't name. "Is that wrong? To want justice for my husband? To refuse to be driven off the land he died for?" "No, it's not wrong." Cole met her gaze. "But it might get you killed." "Maybe. But some things are worth dying for." She paused. "You understand that, don't you? Better than most." "I used to." Cole looked out at the darkness. "Then I stopped believing in anything worth dying for. Started believing in just staying alive." He was silent for a moment. "I'm not sure which is worse." Sarah reached out and touched his hand. Just briefly, just for a moment. "Maybe it's not too late to start believing again." Cole looked at her hand on his, then up at her face. "Maybe." They sat there in the darkness, not touching, not speaking, watching the stars turn overhead. And for the first time in 3 years, Cole felt something other than emptiness in his chest. It felt like hope. And it terrified him. The old man found Cole at the general store in town. Sarah had sent him for supplies, flour, coffee, ammunition. She'd refused to let him go alone, so Matthew had come along to show him the way. The boy was outside now, loading the wagon, while Cole settled the bill with the shopkeeper. Cole Wheeler. The voice came from behind him, rough and knowing. "Thought I recognized you." Cole turned slowly. The speaker was an old man, maybe 70, with a gray beard that reached his chest and sharp blue eyes that held the ghost of something dangerous. He wore an ancient buckskin jacket and carried an old Sharps rifle like it was part of his arm. "Sam Tucker," the old man said. "We met once, up in Montana. Winter of '69. You wouldn't remember. You were half dead from frostbite, and I was drunk enough for both of us. Cole studied him. There was something familiar about the face, a flash of memory from a frozen cabin, and a fire that had saved his life. I remember. You were tracking a Sioux war party. Was, until I found you bleeding out in the snow. Sam grinned, showing gaps where teeth should be. Cost me the bounty, saving you. Never did get paid for that job. I'm sorry about that. Don't be. Money comes and goes. Good men are harder to find. Sam's eyes flickered to the door, where Matthew was waiting with the wagon. Heard you're staying with the McAllister widow. Word travels fast. In a town this small, word travels before you finish thinking it. Sam lowered his voice. Silas Hartley knows you're here. Knows who you are. He's been asking questions all over town. Where you came from, how long you're staying, how close you've gotten to the widow and her young'uns. Cole's jaw tightened. I figured as much. He's bringing in more men. I've seen him riding in over the past week. Rough types, the kind who kill for money and don't ask questions. Sam's eyes were grave. You're outnumbered, son. Outgunned. If Hartley decides to move on that ranch, there's nothing you can do to stop him. I know. Then why are you still here? Cole looked out the window at Matthew, who was talking to a girl his age across the street, smiling the way only a 12-year-old could smile. Because those children need someone to stand between them and what's coming, and I'm the only one here. Sam was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded, slowly. You've changed since Montana. You used to be just another gun hand, looking for the next fight. Now. He shook his head. Now you look like a man who's found something worth losing. Maybe. Well. Sam shifted the Sharps rifle on his shoulder. I'm too old for this kind of trouble. But if you need eyes watching your back, I know this country better than anyone. Might be I can help. Why would you do that? Because you saved my life once, whether you remember it or not. Sioux had me pinned down in a gulch, winter of '68. Young Confederate officer came out of nowhere and took down 3 of them before they knew what hit 'em. Sam's eyes met his. I never forget a debt. Cole did remember. It seemed like another lifetime, before Thomas Hartley, before the running, before everything. I appreciate that, Sam. But this isn't your fight. Hell, son, at my age, every fight might be my last anyway. Might as well make it count. Sam grinned again. You know where to find me. Down at the livery, sleeping it off most nights. When the shooting starts, give me a holler. He shuffled out of the store, leaving Cole standing alone with the supplies and the weight of what was coming. They burned Peterson's house that night. Cole saw the glow on the horizon from the McAllister porch, a red-orange smear against the dark sky 3 miles to the south. Sarah came out to stand beside him, her face grim. The Petersons, she said. They were the last holdouts besides us. Old man Peterson refused to sell his water access to Hartley. Did they get out? I don't know. Her voice was tight. Mrs. Peterson has rheumatism. She can't move fast. They watched the glow in silence. After a while, it began to fade as the fire consumed whatever fuel remained. There were no sounds of shouting, no gunshots carried on the wind, just the distant crackle of flames and the endless quiet of the desert night. Where next? Sarah said. It wasn't a question. Probably. What do we do? Cole turned to face her. In the reflected glow of the distant fire, her face was hard and scared and beautiful all at once. We have 2 choices. We can run, pack up the children, leave everything, disappear before Hartley makes his move, start over somewhere else. And the other choice? We stay, we fight, and we probably die. Sarah was quiet for a long time. The fire on the horizon died to embers, then to darkness. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady. I won't run. I can't. Not after everything James sacrificed. She looked at him. But I won't ask you to stay, Cole. This isn't your fight. It never was. You're wrong. Cole took her hand. It was the first time he'd touched her intentionally, and he felt her stiffen, then relax. It became my fight the moment I woke up in your spare room. Maybe before that. Maybe it was always supposed to be my fight. Cole, I've spent 3 years running from what I did. Running from who I was. But you can't outrun yourself forever. He squeezed her hand. Silas Hartley wants revenge for his brother. Fine. Let him come and try to take it. But I won't let him hurt you or your children to get it. I won't let another good man's family suffer because of me. Sarah's eyes glistened. You might die. I might. Cole almost smiled. But at least I'll die for something that matters. That's more than I could have said a month ago. She stepped forward, closing the distance between them. For a moment, he thought she might kiss him. Part of him hoped she would. But instead, she just pressed her forehead against his shoulder and let out a long, shaking breath. Thank you, she whispered, for staying. Thank you for making me want to. They stood there on the porch, wrapped in darkness, while somewhere in the distance the Peterson homestead smoldered and the night held its breath, waiting for what would come with the dawn. They came at dawn, just like Cole knew they would. He counted 15 riders as they crested the ridge to the east, silhouetted against the rising sun. Jack Crow rode at the front, his black duster flapping in the morning wind. Behind him came the hired guns, hard men with cold eyes and empty souls, the kind who would kill a woman and her children without losing a moment's sleep. And in the center, riding a white horse like some dark king surveying his domain, was Silas Hartley himself. Cole stood on the porch, his Colt on his hip, watching them approach. Sarah was inside with the children, the rifle loaded and ready. Matthew had wanted to fight, had begged to stand beside Cole, but his mother had refused. If something happens to me, Sarah had told her son, her voice firm, you're the man of this family. You protect your sister and brother. That's more important than any fight. The riders stopped 100 feet from the cabin. Silas Hartley nudged his horse forward a few paces, his silver-gray hair catching the morning light. Cole Wheeler. His voice carried across the dusty ground. I've waited 3 years for this moment. I know. Cole's voice was steady. I'm sorry about your brother, Hartley, but he drew first. It was a fair fight. Fair. Silas spat the word. Thomas was a fool and a drunk, but he was my blood. You took that from me, and now I'm going to take everything from you. His eyes moved to the cabin, starting with that woman you've been bedding. Cole felt something cold settle in his chest. She has nothing to do with this. Neither do her children. This is between you and me. It was between you and me. But she made it her business when she took you in, when she stood with you against my men. Silas smiled, a thin reptilian expression. I was going to take her land anyway. Now I'll take it over her corpse. No. Cole stepped off the porch. You want me? Here I am. Let's finish this. You and me. Right here. Right now. Jack Crow laughed. You think you can take all of us? No. Just you. Cole looked at Silas. You want justice? Let Crow and me settle it. If I win, you ride away and leave the widow alone. If he wins, you can do whatever you want with me. Silas considered this, his dark eyes calculating. And if I refuse, then I'll take as many of your men with me as I can before I go down, and you'll have to explain to whatever's left of them why their friends died for your pride. A long silence. The morning sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the dirt. The horses shifted restlessly. The hired guns waited, hands near their weapons, watching their boss for a signal. Finally, Silas nodded. Fine. Jack's been wanting a rematch anyway. He looked at his enforcer. Finish him. Jack Crow dismounted, slow and deliberate, his black duster settling around him. He walked toward Cole with the unhurried confidence of a man who had killed dozens and expected to kill dozens more. I've been practicing, Jack said, every day for 3 years, waiting for this. Then let's see if it paid off. They faced each other in the morning light, 30 feet apart. Cole could feel his heart pounding, slow and steady. The wound in his shoulder ached, but he pushed it away. There was no room for pain now, no room for fear, just the moment, just the draw. Jack's hand twitched. 2 gunshots split the morning air, so close together they sounded like one. Cole staggered, feeling fire bloom in his side. But he didn't fall, couldn't fall. Not yet. Jack Crow stood frozen, a look of surprise on his thin face. Then he looked down at the red stain spreading across his chest, touched it with trembling fingers, and crumpled into the dust. The world seemed to hold its breath. Then Silas Hartley screamed, "Kill him! Kill them all!" The hired guns went for their weapons. A rifle cracked from the cabin, then another. Sarah, shooting through the window, her aim true. A rider tumbled from his horse. Another shot echoed from somewhere to the north. Sam Tucker, the old man, firing from behind a rocky outcropping with his Sharps rifle. Another rider went down. Cole raised his Colt, fired again. Men fell. Horses screamed. The morning exploded into chaos. Through it all, Silas Hartley sat on his white horse, his face twisted with rage, watching his army collapse around him. Cole advanced, ignoring the blood soaking through his shirt, ignoring the fire in his side. Step by step, shot by shot, men fled, broke ranks, rode for their lives. They weren't being paid enough to die for Silas Hartley's revenge. Until only Silas remained. Cole stopped 10 feet from the white horse, his Colt trained on Hartley's chest. Blood dripped from his fingers. His vision was graying at the edges. He didn't have much time. "It's over, Hartley." The cattle baron's face was pale, but his eyes were burning. "You killed my brother. You killed my men. This isn't over. It will never be over. Your brother drew first. I gave him a chance to walk away. He didn't take it." Cole's thumb pulled back the hammer. "I'm giving you the same chance. Ride away. Leave this town. Leave these people. And don't come back. And if I refuse, then I'll end this the only way it can end. And you'll find out if there's a hell waiting for men like you." Silas's hand moved toward his ornate pistol. Cole fired. The shot echoed across the desert, rolling over the mountains and fading into silence. Silas Hartley slumped in his saddle, then fell, his body hitting the ground with a sound like finality. Cole stood there, swaying, the gun still raised. Around him, the dust settled. The surviving riders were gone, scattered across the landscape like leaves in a storm. Bodies lay in the morning light, payment for a rich man's pride. Then the gun fell from his fingers, and Cole followed it into darkness. He woke to the smell of wood smoke and something else. Home. For a moment, he thought he was back at the beginning, wounded, dying, waking in a stranger's spare room. But then he felt the warmth of a hand in his, and opened his eyes to find Sarah sitting beside his bed, her auburn hair loose around her shoulders, her brown eyes filled with tears. "You're awake." Her voice cracked. "Thank God, you're awake." Cole tried to speak, coughed. She held a cup of water to his lips, and he drank gratefully. "How long?" he managed. 3 days. The fever was bad, worse than before." She set down the cup, her hand trembling. "The doctor came from town. He said—" She stopped, wiped her eyes. "He said it was a miracle you survived. Maybe not a miracle." Cole looked at her hand, still holding his. Maybe just something worth living for. Sarah's face crumpled. She leaned forward, pressing her forehead to his chest, and for the first time since he'd known her, she let herself cry. "I thought you were dead," she whispered. "When you fell, I thought I'd lost someone else. I couldn't. I'm here." Cole lifted his hand, slowly and painfully, and touched her hair. "I'm still here." They stayed like that for a long time, not speaking, just breathing. The fire crackled. Outside, he could hear children's voices, Emily's laugh, Tommy's excited chatter, Matthew's voice, deeper now, giving orders like the young man he was becoming, the sounds of a family, the sounds of life. Finally, Sarah lifted her head. Her eyes were red but clear, and something in them had changed. "The sheriff came yesterday. The territorial marshal, too. They want to talk to you about what happened." "I imagine they do." Sam Tucker told them everything. How Hartley had been terrorizing the valley for years. How he burned Peterson's ranch, killed James. She paused. "The marshal said there won't be any charges. It was self-defense. Everyone knows it." "And Hartley's men? Gone, scattered, the ones who survived anyway." Sarah's voice hardened. "They won't be coming back, not without someone to pay them." Cole closed his eyes. It was over. The running, the hiding, the endless looking over his shoulder. Silas Hartley was dead. His brother's death was finally paid for. But somehow it didn't feel like victory, just exhaustion and a strange, hollow peace. "What happens now?" he asked. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then she lifted his hand and pressed it to her cheek. "Now," she said softly, "you heal." And then... She paused, something vulnerable in her eyes. "Then you decide what you want to do, where you want to go. And if I want to stay?" The question hung in the air between them. Sarah's breath caught. "Then," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "you stay, and we figure out the rest together." Cole looked at her. This woman who had saved his life, who had stood beside him against impossible odds, who had given him something he thought he'd lost forever. "Then I'll stay," he said, "if you'll have me." Sarah's smile was like the sunrise, breaking through clouds. "I'll have you, Cole Wheeler. God help me, I'll have you." She leaned down and kissed him, gentle and fierce and full of promise. And somewhere in the distance, beyond the cabin and the corral and the mountains, the sun continued its slow climb across the Nevada sky, painting the world in shades of gold and amber and hope. 3 months later, Cole Wheeler stood on the porch of the McAllister Ranch and watched the sunset paint the desert in shades of fire. The fence was fixed now, properly. The barn had a new coat of paint. The herd had grown. He'd bought 24 head of cattle with money from his past, blood money that he'd finally found a use for. The land that Sarah had fought for, that James had died for, was thriving at last. Tommy ran past him, chasing a chicken that had escaped its coop. Emily called from the garden, asking her mother about something. Matthew rode in from the north pasture, sitting straight in the saddle, looking more like a man every day. And Sarah came to stand beside him, her hand finding his in the fading light. "Beautiful evening," she said. "It is." "Sam Tucker stopped by today, asked if you'd be at the town meeting next week. They're talking about electing a new sheriff." She glanced at him, a smile playing at her lips. "Your name came up." Cole laughed, a real laugh, rusty from disuse but warming quickly. "Me? A sheriff? Stranger things have happened." She squeezed his hand. "A man can change. A man can become something he never expected." He looked at her, this woman who had given him a second chance, a family, a reason to stop running. "Maybe," he said. "Or maybe he can just become what he was always supposed to be." Sarah leaned into him as the sun disappeared below the horizon. The first stars appeared overhead, and somewhere in the darkness, a coyote howled, a sound that no longer seemed lonely, but like the land itself singing its approval. Cole Wheeler had come to Bitter Creek to die. Instead, he had found something worth living for, and in the end, that made all the difference. The end image prompts. Total, 95 prompts. 2 images per prompt. 190 images. Rugged man, late 30s, tall and lean with weathered features, sharp, angular face with strong jaw covered in dark stubble. Short dark hair with grey at temples, intense grey-blue eyes, prominent scar running from left temple to cheekbone, wearing worn black duster coat over faded grey cotton shirt, dark trousers tucked into dusty boots, gun belt with Colt revolver, sweat-stained black hat. Riding grey mare at full gallop down rocky mountain slope, blood soaking through left shoulder of shirt, expression of grim determination. Desert mountain landscape at dawn, golden light breaking over peaks, dust cloud behind horse. 1875, Nevada Territory. Realistic style, cinematic, western drama. 3 riders silhouetted against sunrise on distant ridge. Dark figures on horseback looking down at valley below, dust trails behind them. Wide shot showing vast desert landscape with small frontier town in valley. Silver Creek glittering in morning light. Atmosphere of pursuit and danger. 1875, American West. Realistic style, cinematic, western drama. Weathered wooden sign reading Bitter Creek, crooked and faded. New aboard nailed below. Behind it, dusty frontier town main street visible with wooden buildings, covered walkways, horse hitching posts. Early morning light, empty streets. Atmosphere of quiet desperation. 1875, Nevada frontier town. Realistic style, cinematic, western drama. Rugged man, late 30s, weathered features, scar on left cheek, short dark hair with grey at temples, intense grey-blue eyes half closed, wearing dusty black duster, blood-soaked grey shirt. Collapsed face down in dirt beside wooden water trough, grey mare standing nearby with hanging head, reins dragging. Rustic barn and corral in background, pre-dawn twilight, blue-grey atmosphere. 1875, Nevada Ranch. Realistic style, cinematic, western drama. Beautiful woman, early 30s, delicate features, high cheekbones, long auburn hair in practical braid, warm brown eyes flecked with gold, fair skin with light freckles, resilient expression. Wearing simple blue calico dress, white apron, holding rifle aimed cautiously. Standing in pre-dawn darkness near wooden well, breath visible in cold air, shawl wrapped around shoulders. Rustic ranch cabin in background. 1875 Nevada frontier. Realistic style, cinematic, western drama. Auburn-haired woman, early 30s, wearing blue calico dress and white apron, kneeling in dirt beside unconscious man. Rugged man, late 30s, face down, weathered features visible, scar on cheek, blood soaking through shoulder of grey shirt, wearing black duster. Woman's expression torn between fear and compassion. Early morning light, dusty barnyard. 1875, Nevada Ranch. Realistic style, cinematic, western drama. Simple log cabin interior, narrow cot with patchwork quilt. Wounded man lying unconscious with bandaged shoulder. Rugged man, late 30s, pale face, dark stubble, scar on cheek, eyes closed, short dark hair with grey at temples. Warm firelight glow from doorway, rough-hewn wooden walls, oil lamp on small table. Atmosphere of quiet recovery. 1875 Nevada cabin. Realistic style, cinematic, western drama. Auburn-haired woman, early 30s, standing in cabin doorway, wiping hands on white apron, warm brown eyes watching cautiously. Wearing simple blue calico dress, hair in braid. Through doorway, fireplace visible with crackling fire. expression of wariness mixed with curiosity. Warm interior lighting. 1875. Nevada cabin. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Rugged man, late 30s. Sitting up painfully in narrow cot, bandaged shoulder visible, wearing no shirt, intense grey-blue eyes alert, scar prominent on weathered face. Reaching for water cup with right hand, grimace of pain. Simple cabin room, patchwork quilt, oil lamp casting warm glow. 1875. Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Young girl, 8 years old, auburn hair tied with blue ribbon, freckles across nose, curious bright eyes, carrying bowl of stew carefully, wearing simple cotton dress, standing in cabin doorway, looking at wounded stranger with frank curiosity. Warm firelight from behind. 1875 Nevada cabin. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Imposing man, mid-50s, heavy-set with barrel chest, thick arms, broad weathered face, deep-set dark eyes calculating, silver-grey hair swept back, thick mustache, wearing expensive black suit jacket, grey brocade vest, gold watch chain visible, string tie. Sitting behind large wooden desk in office above bank, morning light through window, atmosphere of power and menace. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Lean, dangerous man, early 40s, hollow cheeks, thin mouth, cold, pale eyes. Black hair worn longer falling across face, clean shaven with thin scar on chin. Wearing all black clothing, black shirt, black vest, long black duster, black hat worn low. Standing in office doorway, predatory stance, twin Colts visible in cross-draw holsters. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Rugged man, late 30s, weathered features, scar on cheek, wearing faded grey shirt with bandaged shoulder visible, dark trousers. Taking first steps outside onto wooden cabin porch, leaning on railing, morning sunlight on face. Expression of guarded peace. Ranch yard visible with barn and corral. 1875 Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Young boy, 5 years old, blonde hair, blue eyes, shy expression. Holding out small wooden carved horse toward rugged man kneeling on porch. Man, late 30s, weathered features, scar on cheek, expression softening with surprise and emotion. Warm morning light, ranch porch setting. 1875. Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Kitchen table at night, 2 coffee cups, low firelight casting long shadows. Rugged man, late 30s, weathered features, scar on cheek, sitting across from auburn-haired woman, early 30s. Intense conversation, both expressions serious. Simple cabin interior, rough-hewn walls, dying embers. 1875 Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama, 3 riders approaching ranch at speed, dust clouds behind them. Led rider wearing all black, lean, dangerous figure, 2 armed men flanking him. Ranch buildings in foreground, woman and boy emerging from cabin with rifle, tension in the air. Midday sun, 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Standoff in dusty ranch yard. Rugged man, late 30s, facing lean man in all black early 40s. 20 feet separating opponents, hands near guns. Tension crackling in air, dust swirling. Midday sun casting harsh shadows. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Auburn-haired woman, early 30s, on cabin porch, rifle aimed at mounted rider. Smoke curling from barrel, determined expression, brown eyes fierce. Blue calico dress, hair in braid. One rider clutching wounded shoulder, horse rearing, moment of violent intervention. 1875 Nevada ranch. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Rugged man, late 30s. Weathered features, scar on cheek, repairing wooden fence with hammer and nails. Wearing gray shirt sleeves rolled up, bandaged shoulder visible. 5-year-old blonde boy beside him holding nails, looking up admiringly. Afternoon sun, ranch fence line, mountains in background. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Evening scene, cabin porch. Rugged man, late 30s, sitting on steps looking at stars. Auburn-haired woman, early 30s, sitting beside him wrapped in shawl. Respectful distance between them, but emotional connection visible. Moonlight, peaceful atmosphere. 1875 Nevada ranch, realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Weathered old man, late 60s, grey beard reaching chest, sharp blue eyes, bow-legged stance, missing 2 fingers on left hand, wearing ancient buckskin jacket over faded red Union suit, battered cavalry hat, carrying old Sharps rifle. Speaking to rugged younger man in general store. 1875 Nevada town, realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Distant fire on horizon at night, red-orange glow against dark sky. Homestead burning 3 miles away. View from cabin porch, rugged man and auburn-haired woman standing together watching, expressions grim. 1875 Nevada, realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. 2 figures standing close on cabin porch in darkness, woman's forehead pressed against man's shoulder. Auburn-haired woman, early 30s, allowing moment of vulnerability. Rugged man, late 30s, expression of protective determination. Night setting, dying fire glow on distant horizon. 1875 Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Dawn breaking over ridge, 15 riders silhouetted against rising sun. Man in black leading, imposing silver-haired man on white horse in center. Army of hired guns behind them, ominous approach toward unseen ranch below. 1875 Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Rugged man, late 30s, weathered features, scar on cheek, standing alone on cabin porch, wearing gray shirt, gun belt with Colt revolver, intense gray-blue eyes, watching approaching riders, expression of grim resolve, dawn light, dust clouds on horizon. 1875, Nevada ranch, realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Auburn-haired woman, early 30s, inside cabin with rifle ready, looking through window. 12-year-old boy behind her, wanting to fight. 8-year-old girl and 5-year-old boy huddled in corner. Atmosphere of fear and determination. 1875, Nevada cabin interior. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. 15 riders stopped in ranch yard, facing cabin. Imposing silver-haired man, mid-50s, on white horse in center, wearing black suit and gray brocade vest. Lean, dangerous man in all black to his left. Armed hired guns flanking. Dust settling, morning light. 1875 Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. 2 men facing each other in dusty ranch yard, 30 feet apart. Rugged man, late 30s, in gray shirt and gun belt on left. Lean man in all black on right. Classic Western standoff, hands hovering near weapons. Mounted riders watching in background. Morning sun, long shadows. 1875 Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama, split second of the draw. Rugged man's hand blurred reaching for Colt. Lean man in black drawing twin pistols. Dust frozen in air, morning light catching on metal. Extreme tension, moment before gunshots. 1875 Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Lean man in all black, early 40s. Frozen with look of surprise on thin face, red stains spreading across chest. Gun half drawn, falling. Rugged man opposite staggering but standing. Blood visible on his side but gun still raised and smoking. Moment of victory. 1875 Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Chaos in ranch yard. Horses rearing, men falling, dust clouds everywhere. Rugged man, late 30s, advancing through battle-firing Colt revolver, blood soaking his side, determined expression. Morning light through dust and gun smoke. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Imposing silver-haired man, mid-50s, alone on white horse in devastated yard, face twisted with rage. Surrounded by fallen men, his army destroyed. Rugged wounded man approaching. Colt raised. Final confrontation. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Final gunshot moment. Rugged man firing, muzzle flash visible, imposing silver-haired man slumping in saddle, falling from white horse, body hitting ground. End of the battle, morning light, dust and smoke in air. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Rugged man, late 30s, standing alone in devastated ranch yard, surrounded by bodies, gun falling from fingers. Blood soaking his side, swaying on feet, expression of exhaustion, then collapsing into dust. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Woman kneeling in dust beside unconscious man, holding his head in her lap, auburn hair falling loose from braid, tears streaming down face. His weathered features pale, scar prominent, eyes closed, intimate moment of fear and love. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Simple cabin recovery room, narrow cot with patchwork quilt. Rugged man, late 30s, pale and bandaged but alive, slowly opening gray-blue eyes. Auburn-haired woman asleep in chair beside bed, holding his hand. Warm firelight, peaceful atmosphere. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Two faces close together, tender moment about to become kiss. Rugged man, late 30s, weathered features softened, grey-blue eyes warm. Auburn-haired woman, early 30s, brown eyes glistening with tears and hope. Firelight on both faces. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. First kiss between rugged man and auburn-haired woman. Gentle and fierce and full of promise. His hand cupping her face, her hand on his chest over bandages. Firelight glow, intimate cabin interior. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic Western drama, wide shot of McAllister Ranch 3 months later, transformed. Fence repaired properly, barn with fresh coat of red paint, expanded herd of cattle grazing, prosperous and thriving. Golden afternoon light, 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Rugged man, late 30s, weathered features, scar on cheek, standing on cabin porch watching sunset. Expression of peace and contentment, something he hasn't known in years. Orange and gold light on his face. 1875, Nevada Ranch. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. 5-year-old blonde boy chasing escaped chicken across ranch yard, laughing. 8-year-old girl with auburn hair calling from garden. 12-year-old boy riding in from north pasture on horseback, sitting tall. Family scene, joy and normalcy. 1875, Nevada Ranch. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Auburn-haired woman, early 30s, coming to stand beside rugged man on porch, her hand finding his. Both watching sunset paint desert in shades of fire. Expression of love and partnership. Golden hour light, 1875, Nevada Ranch. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Final image, couple standing together on porch, her leaning into him as sun disappears below horizon. First stars appearing overhead. Ranch behind them, children's voices in background. Perfect moment of peace and hope. Coyote howling in distance. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Close-up of woman's hands discovering blood on grey horse's neck, dark sticky substance visible on pale fingers. Auburn-haired woman, early 30s, expression of alarm, Gray mare standing exhausted by fence. First light of dawn breaking. 1875, Nevada ranch. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Rugged man's hand taking woman's hand gently in moonlight on cabin porch. His weathered, calloused fingers, her work roughened but feminine hand. Moment of connection and promise. Stars overhead. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. 12-year-old boy, brown hair, mother's warm eyes, brushing horse in corral with focused determination. Trying to do a man's job. Ranch buildings in background, morning light. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Rugged man, late 30s, teaching 5-year-old blonde boy to whittle wood on cabin porch. Boy concentrating hard, small wooden horse taking shape. Afternoon light, peaceful domestic scene. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Auburn-haired woman, early 30s, cooking at iron stove in cabin kitchen, steam rising from pot. Through window, rugged man visible working on fence. Content expression on her face. Domestic tranquility. 1875. Nevada cabin interior. Realistic style. Cinematic. Western drama. Family dinner scene inside cabin. Auburn-haired woman, rugged man, and 3 children around rough-hewn table. Warm firelight, laughter implied. First meal as a family unit. 1875, Nevada cabin interior. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Rugged man, late 30s, on horseback riding perimeter of ranch property at dawn. Checking for tracks, scanning horizon. Alert but peaceful expression. Mountains in background, golden morning light. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Old man, late 60s, grey beard, buckskin jacket. Firing Sharp's rifle from behind rocky outcropping on hillside. Puff of smoke, distant rider falling, helping in battle from elevated position. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Auburn-haired woman, early 30s, running from cabin toward fallen man in yard. Rifle dropped, blue calico dress billowing. Expression of terror and desperation. Children in cabin doorway behind her. Aftermath of battle. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic Western drama. Close-up of 2 hands intertwined. His weathered and calloused, hers work roughened but gentle. Simple wedding band visible on chain around her neck. Moment of connection and hope. Warm firelight. 1875, Nevada cabin. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Auburn-haired woman, early 30s, leaning forward. Pressing forehead to recovering man's chest, allowing herself to cry. Expression of relief and released fear. His hand touching her hair gently. Intimate emotional moment. 1875, Nevada cabin interior. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Rugged man laughing, real laughter. Weathered features softened with genuine happiness. Auburn-haired woman beside him, smiling at his reaction. Sunset light on both faces. 1875, Nevada ranch porch. Realistic style, cinematic Western drama, wide landscape shot. Small ranch cabin glowing with warm light against vast Nevada desert at dusk. Mountains silhouetted against fading orange and purple sky. Stars emerging, smoke rising from chimney, scene of hard-won peace. 1875, Nevada territory. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Young girl, 8 years old, auburn hair with blue ribbon, sitting on fence rail beside rugged man, who is repairing wooden post. She's talking animatedly, swinging her legs. He's listening with slight smile. Afternoon sun, ranch corral. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Night scene inside cabin. Rugged man sleeping peacefully on cot for first time without gun in hand. Moonlight through window, expression of rest and safety finally achieved. 1875. Nevada cabin, Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Grave marker on hill overlooking creek. Simple wooden cross with name James McAllister. Auburn-haired woman and rugged man, standing before it, heads bowed. Moment of respect and moving forward. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. 3 children running through tall grass toward creek, playing and laughing. Ranch visible on hill behind them. Smoke from chimney. Joy of childhood restored. Late afternoon golden light. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. 2 men in conversation in dark office. Imposing silver-haired man sitting behind desk. Lean man in all black standing before desk. Window showing mountain sunrise in background. Atmosphere of conspiracy. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Close-up of imposing man, mid-50s, silver-gray hair, thick mustache, dark, calculating eyes. On white horse, looking down at rugged man standing alone. Expression of cold satisfaction. Morning sun behind him. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Rugged man, late 30s, stepping off porch into dusty yard, facing army of riders alone. Weathered features, scar prominent, gray-blue eyes intense, hand near holstered Colt. Defiant posture, morning light casting long shadow. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Lean, dangerous man, early 40s, all black clothing, dismounting from horse, slowly. Cold, pale eyes fixed on rugged opponent, thin, predatory smile. Twin Colts in cross-draw holsters. Dusty ranch yard, tension building. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Hired guns fleeing on horseback, scattered across landscape, abandoning their employer, dust trails behind them. Panic evident, bodies lying in ranch yard behind them. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Close-up of rugged man, late 30s, blood dripping from side, vision graying at edges, but Colt held steady. Weathered features, scar on cheek, gray-blue eyes burning with determination. 10 feet from mounted enemy. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Silver-haired man's hand reaching for ornate pearl-handled pistol on his hip. Dark eyes filled with desperate rage, face pale. On white horse, about to make final move. Morning light, dust settling. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Auburn-haired woman, early 30s, shooting rifle through cabin window, smoke from barrel, fierce, determined expression. Mounted rider in background tumbling from horse, children huddled behind her. Chaos of battle. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Close-up of auburn-haired woman's face, early 30s, tears glistening in brown eyes, moonlight on features, telling painful story, expression of grief and determination, night setting, stars visible. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Close-up of rugged man's face, late 30s, weathered features, grey-blue eyes intense, scar prominent, short, dark hair with grey at temples. Confessing difficult truth, expression of vulnerability. Firelight flickering on face. 1875, Nevada cabin. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Auburn-haired woman in town general store, buying supplies at counter, wearing bonnet and blue calico dress. Other townspeople giving her respectful nods. Acceptance after the battle. 1875, Nevada frontier town. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Old man, late 60s, grey beard, ancient buckskin jacket, sitting outside livery stable in town. Sharp's rifle across lap, watching rugged younger man load supplies into wagon. Knowing look between them. 1875, Nevada frontier town. Realistic style, cinematic, Western drama. Barn interior, rugged man, late 30s, on ladder fixing hole in roof. 8-year-old girl with auburn hair and blue ribbon sitting on hay bale below, chattering and asking questions. Dust motes in light. 1875, Nevada Ranch. Realistic style, cinematic, western drama. Wide shot of small but well-kept ranch property. 2-room log cabin with covered porch, weathered barn, wooden corral with 3 horses and milk cow. Creek glittering in distance, mountains on horizon. Morning light. 1875, Nevada Territory. Realistic style, cinematic, western drama. Auburn-haired woman, early 30s, face illuminated by distant fire's glow, expression of fear and determination. Rugged man beside her, late 30s, hand reaching for hers. Night scene on cabin porch, stars overhead. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, western drama. 3 riders retreating at speed. Dust clouds behind them, one man slumped in saddle holding wounded shoulder. View from ranch porch, rugged man standing in yard watching. Atmosphere of tense victory. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, western drama. Lean, dangerous man in all black, early 40s, hand hovering near twin colts, thin smile that doesn't reach eyes. Speaking threat, predatory stance. Dusty ranch yard, mounted riders behind him. 1875, Nevada. Realistic style, cinematic, western drama. Auburn-haired woman, early 30s, working in garden behind cabin, pulling weeds, wearing blue calico dress and white apron. Young girl, 8 years old, auburn hair beside her, chattering happily. Woman watching distant porch, morning light. 1875, Nevada Ranch. Realistic style, cinematic, western drama.